delighted to have here today a Wexford company, EcoMerit, who have been in the sustainability game, let's say, for many years. So I have here with me Bobby Lambert. You're very welcome, Bobby.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay, and Bobby, I just want to talk to you about EcoMerit from the point of view of it's been around for a while. So tell me who it is, what it is, and what you've been doing.
Okay. Well, EcoMerit is a community of enterprises that the initiative was started by a guy called Phil Walker, a colleague of mine, fellow director, a Scotsman living in Gusran in County Wexford. And I'm an engineer, so I came across this. And one of the things that impressed me about EcoMerit when I first came across it and why I got involved was that it was focused on delivery, measurable delivery, which very few things are. So that was one of the things I really liked about it. There are several other things, but we'll possibly come to that. But EcoMerit itself, as I said, is a community of enterprises across Ireland, large and small, going from small art centres to big hospital groups. And they all have one thing in common, that they use energy, waste or water. And we help them reduce the use of energy, waste and water, and also reduce their emissions, particularly greenhouse gas emissions. So that contributes to reducing the effects of climate change in a very significant way. They also save lots of money. So that's what EcoMerit is about, really. Our vision is about a world that's sustainable and just for everybody, for children, like the grandchild, that type of thing. Yeah. And we do it through working with enterprises to help them on their sustainability journey. We've been doing it since 2009, so we have a good track record.
Wow, it's 2009. So when you say about track record, that's reasonable, because sometimes we may get a consultant in to help us work on some project in business or whatever, but when you say your track record, what is a track record? What does that look like from what EcoMerit is doing for its customers or its clients?
Okay, so the key takeaway on our track record is that our community of members, with our help, have reduced their emissions. That's over 100 enterprises over a 10-year period. They've reduced their emissions by over 60%. And to put that into context, Ireland's emissions as a whole over that period hardly decreased. Also, Ireland's target reduction over 10 years, well, by 2030, is reduced by 50%. So the EcoMerit members have already exceeded those targets since 2009. So that's a track record we're proud of. Not alone have they reduced their emissions, they've also cut their costs in the process. And we think many of them, they talk to us about, they've additional business benefits associated with that, because by looking at cutting emissions, which means saving energy, waste and water, it helps them examine their processes in a bit more depth and improve their business processes.
When you talk about business processes, how do you implement what you do in EcoMerit to improve the processes to reduce the carbon emissions and, as you say, costs? Okay. How do you implement that?
Well, the first thing really is about data. Yeah. So it's about getting information. Yeah. And that starts with very practical things like, let's look at your bills. Let's look at your bills for particularly energy, electricity, for waste and water. For many organizations, their utility bills are something that they look at occasionally. Not everybody knows how to read them technically. So sometimes just by looking at them, we can immediately help them. But it also gives us information on their key usage of energy, waste and water. And that's the starting point. We look at what you're using right now, what the situation is, and then what improvements can be made. And quite often those improvements can be very straightforward. Doing leak tests to see, are you losing any water at night, changing your lighting. Now most people know about LEDs, but they might not always look at timers at when things are coming on, when things are coming off. And I suppose the key thing in this is that it's getting the data for each individual business, looking at that data with the business, and then developing a plan, again, with the business that's tailored to their situation. It's not a one-size-fits-all, it's a tailored plan. And then probably the most important bit is about implementation, because it's about walking the talk, not just about making the plan.
And is there, in terms of either tools or technology, is there anything unique about what EcoMerit is doing versus maybe some other organizations that might be doing it?
I guess there probably are two unique things. The first is that we've got data for each company extending over periods of many years, so we know about their performance, and that's published on our website and available. The second thing is that we are very focused on performance. So EcoMerit members, in addition to getting support from us, are also certified. That's external certification by EcoMerit. So that's a certification which tells their customers, investors, staff, friends that they are serious about being on the sustainability journey.
Can I understand that in that, so if you're providing them, your members, with a service, and you talk about external certification, how if you're doing both the work and consultancy, you're also certifying them. How does that work in terms of being good certification,
Yes.
or objective?
Yes, it's for the purists. This is a slight compromise. It's a compromise because traditionally the certifiers will be separate from the consultant, and we know the reasons for that. However, what we saw was that working with particularly smaller businesses, but it works for bigger businesses too, that there are certification schemes around, like the ISO family, that are very good, but they're quite complicated and quite onerous for a business to implement. With EcoMerit, it's much more straightforward. And what we look at is performance rather than, say, compliance with a set of standards. Now, the rigor of the certification, it's a good question, comes from, we have an oversight board which oversees the process. In fact, we had our annual forum AGM yesterday, and one of the big discussions is how do we, as the oversight board, check how the validity of this process. And the way that's done is partly through accompanying EcoMerit on assessment, but also experiencing it, because quite a few of the people on the oversight board are members of EcoMerit, so they've gone through that and they have a strong interest in maintaining the standards of that certification.
Very interesting. So if you've been going since 2009, so what does the present and the future look like for EcoMerit?
Well, the present, we're busy, we're growing, and that's good to see. However, we're impatient because we feel that we've got a relatively small proportion of the total number of businesses in Ireland who could be on this journey. And we know the urgency of the climate crisis. So we've done, working with a number of other organizations, we've developed a set of proposals for scaling this up with a view to getting 10, 20,000, there's 250,000 SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises in Ireland, and of those probably about 40, 50,000 have a significant carbon footprint. If we could get all of those on this journey, really on the journey, that would be great. And there is sort of neglected sector at the moment. There's a lot about farming, agriculture, retrofitting houses, transport. The SMEs are a little bit down the list, but there's an awful lot that can be done there. And we think that you can save a huge amount of emissions, cut emissions, but also inspire people, because the big thing about SMEs is they employ a lot of people in Ireland, the biggest set of employers. So if all those people are engaged in this sustainability journey in a meaningful way, that will have ripple effects that go way beyond each individual business.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So if you want to scale it, and you have, as you say, a huge percentage of SMEs that haven't even got on the sustainability journey yet, why would they pick up the phone and give EcoMerit a call tomorrow morning?
Okay, there's a number of reasons why people are doing it. One is that they know that their customers and clients are increasingly demanding this. They want to know, what are you doing about the environment? I was speaking with a hotel down the road here in Wexford not so long ago, and when they're getting bookings in for big conferences, the people who are doing the booking want to know their environmental performance, and they want to see the data, and they want to have external verification of this. Similarly, some big companies we work with, they have investors who are looking to, if they're looking to expand their business, the investors want to know about their performance on environmental, social, governance criteria, and that environmental aspect is often the biggest part of it and something we can help them with. And quite often people just want to be doing something and they want to know what can be done in a practical way, because we hear a lot of scare stories. We know about the doomsters.
Yeah.
However, what we work on is practical measures that people can implement day to day. And one of the big things about this is it's a sustainability journey. So it's not something that you just press a button and suddenly you're sustainable. It's a journey over 5 to 10 years. And that's what we've seen, and that's what we know works. Because if you're in a business, this is one of your priorities, but you've got other priorities.
Yeah, me too.
So they're very keen to make progress, confidence building measures that can be, first of all, engaging with the leadership and engaging with staff. So the staff are on board. And then usually staff have a good idea of what to do. And then with technical help, they can really do it.
So does in terms, what type of companies are you working with at the moment? So if someone is thinking of calling you, that they're in a specific industry, they're a specific size, etc., they're thinking, is EcoMerit the right people for me? What are the type of companies you're dealing with at the moment that will give them an idea that, God, these are the right guys for me to call?
Okay, well, one of the key things about this is this applies to any company that uses energy, waste, and water, in significant amounts. The key thing we would say is probably if you're spending 10,000 a year or thereabouts, many companies, enterprises do a lot more than that. So, for example, one of the smaller ones we work with, Phil was up there yesterday, Dunamaze Arts Centre in County Laois, and the Irish National Heritage Park just down the road here outside Wexford, the Beacon Hospital in Dublin at the other end, Cora Leisure Centres.
So you're dealing with it like bigger hospitals like that.
Yeah, Dundrum Town Centre, all shapes and sizes. So long, and public sector, private sector, voluntary sector. So it's any sort of enterprise. But the key thing is, are you using energy, waste and water? And do you need help in navigating your way through all of this? Because it's a complex landscape out there with lots of grants, lots of support, lots of sales pitch. And we're independent. We don't sell anything other than the support we provide.
Yeah.
So.
It sounds very interesting what you're doing, Bobby, and I get from you the how genuine you are about this in terms of making a difference for companies. Tell me, is there anything before we finish, anything interesting or unique, or that where Ireland are at the moment, or where business is at the moment, that we need to consider? That we need to consider going forward.
Well, I think perhaps, quoting Paul O'Connell, there's a need to get stuck in. We know we need urgent action and we need it now.
Yeah.
And that's where we think we have ready to roll and tried and tested approach. And sure, we need innovation and we need research, but we need that in parallel with doing stuff, the sorts of easy stuff that we know can be done and we've shown works. And we know that this can apply to tens of thousands of businesses in Ireland. And although it's a sort of nebulous figure, save millions of tons of carbon, and by our sums, save perhaps €1 billion in the process over 10 years for a minimal cost of about 100 million. So it makes money as well as help save the environment.
Well, look at to finish, I'd just say congratulations, Bobby. It sounds a great company doing great work over a good many years. And it's great that it's again a Wexford company, and so best of luck in the future, and hope it all continues to work well for you.
Thanks very much, Ed.